myself again. But it's the only...
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It's Monday night, it's ladies' night, and we've got Sav, Kendall, and Samantha. Good evening, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you. Katie's got phone issues, so she won't be joining us tonight, unfortunately, but we hope she's tuning in. Plenty to talk about. Transfer deadline day. No Jim White on this show. No red naps. Unfortunately, just us, and just as well, really, because there's not a great deal to talk about with regards to transfers. Newcastle obviously only making the much publicised signing today of a youngster who will be going straight into the under-23s, Rodrigo Vilca. A lot being talked about Rodrigo, obviously Peruvian, following in the footsteps of the great Nobby Solano, and Newcastle have signed him up on a 4-year deal. Other than that, it doesn't look as if we're going to be making any more moves in the transfer market. Keith Downey from Sky tweeted earlier that that's it, business done for this transfer window. Happy with what they've got. In a nutshell, the concerns that we all had as supporters about having players available up front in case there was injuries doesn't seem to be bothering Steve Bruce and his team. And obviously worries that we have at centre half as well. He's tended to bat that off with we've got players coming back. So, you know, I suppose, is it a good transfer window is the question I'm going to put out to the fans who text in, and it's going to be the first question that I ask the ladies. So, Sav, good transfer window?
Do you know, I think we've made some good signings, but like I think, you know, obviously the climax of signing, you know, Callum Wilson and Ryan Fraser both in the same day. Everyone was really happy with that. And then it just fell flat and nothing else has been done since. I mean, I know when Mike Ashley's in charge, you can't get greedy, but there are other areas where we needed to improve and it hasn't been done. And like you said, you know, you can't have a team that's based around sort of individual sort of brilliance of the players. You need to have a collective team. So if something happens to St. Maximum or Callum Wilson, then we're going to have a completely different team to what we sent out on Saturday. And that's my concern. I just think we could have done more. You know, we've been probably lucky considering, you know, we've got Mike Ashley, but we could have done more.
Yeah, I agree. I think we could have done a lot more, but beggars can't be choosers. We've got a goal scorer, and we'll come to the weekend's game a little bit later. We've got somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net. That was very, very important this window. Kendall, has it been a good transfer window in your mind?
Don't get us on, the signings we've made have been good. They've obviously, Callum Wilson in particular has massively improved the team. Obviously, we needed a goal scorer. But for me personally, I feel like they should have taken up the options that they had of 2 loanee spaces available. I think they should have taken those options up. I know obviously apparently Ruben Loftus-Cheek wasn't interested in a move to the northeast, so that's fair enough. But then I feel like we haven't obviously tried to do anything else on top of that. We should have gone in for a loan for a central defender, absolutely massively, and probably an attacking midfielder as well, because you know we missed out on Ross Barkley, which I was absolutely gutted about, because I feel like he would have just been perfect in what we, the fans and everything, feel like we need. So sorry, I just seen that comment and made us laugh. But yeah, so I feel like we should have maybe taken up those options, but unfortunately it doesn't look like we're going to do any more business. So, but other than that, the signings we've got, yeah, great, amazing, fantastic, but we're like a Callum Wilson and a St. Maximum away now from back to square one. So yeah, I don't think we'll do anything else now, unfortunately.
Samantha, your view on the transfer window for Newcastle United this time round?
Yeah, I think it was a good window up until the season started. You know, we got a couple of players in that we needed. I said it on Twitter, we had gaping holes in our squad that needed to be filled, and we filled them. But then when the season starts and you realise we still have a lack of quality in certain areas, then you need to find players, and it's either the players didn't want to come, or, you know, if Bruce is saying I'll bring someone in that will improve us and he's not found that, well then either he's lying or he's blind, because there's still issues within the squad. People can talk about us having 5 or 6 centre backs. You know, they've apart from Fernandez, they've barely played a full season. There are niggling injuries there, and the only person that we really saw that had an impact on was Lejeune, who went out to Spain, which is fine, fair enough. I hope it's good for him, but we don't know. Lascelles has ankle injuries, hamstring. Clark has barely come back before he's went out again. Shar, actually, I think he played well at the weekend, but I mean, his shoulder might be gone again. Is he reliable? I just think that we're rolling the dice again when we didn't need to. And it's worrying that he wants to keep his 2 loans for January, because who knows where we're going to be come January. You know, I'd like to think we'll still be in and around mid-table, but we don't know. So, you know, we were supposed to sign a midfielder in January last year for 35 million, decided not to, kept the money, COVID hit, money's gone. Why do we take these risks?
I mean, we've got a few hours to go, probably 3 on the dot, I think, more or less now. It's ASM, obviously still here, Miggy still here, Sav, players which, you know, undoubtedly cause a threat to the opposition. Should we still be concerned that there might be a last-minute bid for one of those or both of those players?
I'm hoping not. You know, it would be sod's law, but I'm really hoping not. The one that I did see flying about was De Braca. That there was interest in him, and I'd be quite upset if he went, you know, at the last minute, along with sort of Miggy and St Max. It is quite concerning. I'm just hoping that nothing moves, you know, between now and when it closes.
Yeah, okay, Kendall. I mean, it is a blessing. I mean, somebody's just made the point that we haven't lost Alan St Maximin in particular. Has that been a concern for you, or have you always felt, you know, safe, you know, that he would probably stay in this window?
Well, the good thing about St Maximin is that I'm under the impression that there's not a buyout clause in his contract. Which means that obviously the ball's in our park, basically, in terms of, you know, a club can't just come in and say, right, there's his buyout clause, that's what we want. So yeah, but obviously there always is the worry that your best players are going to go and then you're just going to be back to square one again. And there was obviously a lot of you know, rumours surrounding Miggy at the beginning of the season going to like Atletico Madrid, for example. Obviously we managed to keep him as well. I was always pretty much told by, you know, Roberto Rojas, who originally broke the Miggy story, that was pretty much not happening anyway. So luckily, we managed to keep them, and that's good for us. But, you know, you just don't know what's going to happen right now. And to be quite fair, it's players that we obviously need to get rid of that aren't really in demand, such as Atsu, Saive, Lazar, Aaron's, things like that. So, I mean, I know Atsu's looking to go out on loan or maybe a permanent deal to Watford. So hopefully that comes off. But, I mean, it's a bit late now. At the end of the day, there's nothing we can really do, even if he does go. So it would just, I think that's what they were just waiting for, offloading a couple of players. But obviously it hasn't happened. So...
Yeah, no news on Atsu, Samantha. I mean, that was one that looked possible that we're going to get out the door, but there is loans as well, which can be organised, you know, after this transfer deadline day ends, obviously to different divisions, etc. But are you just pleased that Alan St Maximin's still a Newcastle player?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's the difference. Him and Wilson, you know, we'll get on to the match on Saturday, but their link-up play for only being in the squad together X amount of weeks is fantastic. I'm a bit nervous about Almiron. Don't know whether that's just me, but I don't understand why he's not playing. I don't understand how he's not in the system. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't want to get into the Joelinton debate, but you know, you want goals and assists to be coming from your forward players, and Miggy has that in his locker. So I don't think St Maximin will go. I think, you know, we'll have him for this year at least. Hopefully, you know, there's a bit of positive news around the club. The players that need to leave, we can't offer them to anybody to take up. You know, I heard that Yedlin had offers and either the club turned them down or he turned them down. And you know, I would probably be a little bit more cutting edge than Bruce and be like, you're not going to be in the squad unless you find yourself a club. He's done it for a couple of them, but not all of them. And I think, you know, if you really want someone out of your club, you need to be a little bit more cutthroat. And I would like to hope that, you know, the club are looking at paying some of these guys off so that they're not in and around the club having an impact. In terms of loans after today, first of all, I think the window's a shambles. I don't particularly understand it. But also, I think the club have made their mark, and unless there is an injury, I don't think they're going to do anything.
Yeah, I would agree. I think looking at the whole transfer window in general, from my perspective, I'm just delighted we've got a goal scorer in. Really pleased with Wilson. I think 20 million's a snip for him. I think there'll be a few of the bigger teams wishing that they'd took the gamble and got in for him before Newcastle. But yeah, good signing. I think Fraser will come good. Gives us a little bit of an option on the bench at the moment, but I'm hoping that he'll become a permanent fixture in the team as well. I think Vilka, who was saying today, could end up being like Perez. I mean, Perez got thrown in at the deep end. He's a creative player. They'll want to see what he's like in the 23s, but don't be surprised if you see him getting fast-tracked if he's good enough, because that's what happened with Perez, and he never looked back. And obviously, we made a handsome profit on Perez when we sold him. Hopefully, we will be in a position where we won't be a selling club moving forward, and somebody like Vilka will have the opportunity to progress and stay for a long time in a Newcastle shirt and do as well as Nobby did. Let's look back at the game at the weekend, Sav. For me, it was unexpected, I've got to be honest, even up to when I saw the team announced and I saw that Shelby was in, judging by the way Shelby played midweek, and, seeing Kraft in the back four, it never really fills us with confidence. But to be honest, that was a pretty good display by Newcastle at the weekend, and probably a lot of it down to St. Maximin. It definitely gave us a completely different, different attacking option. Joelinton, I thought, played well, but overall, Callum Wilson was the difference as well, with his penalty, but obviously, being in the right place at the right time for that great ball in from St. Maximin.
Yeah, I thought we actually played really well. I mean, I've seen a few comments flying about, obviously, Burnley are injury struck at the moment. And, they were sort of mediocre, and, we just got lucky. But at the end of the day, you've got to look at Burnley and you've got to think they're a team that, finished 10 points ahead of us last season. And to go out there and beat them 3-1 was actually quite good for us, considering how we can play. And I thought that, the link-up play was better. Joelinton, I'm quite glad that he's not, amazing, but he's still improving, and he's in a better position this season. St. Maximum, he just made everything, which was surprised me a little bit, because the last few games that he'd played, he was a bit off. And I thought, maybe he's not. I thought maybe he's up, thinking about moving or something like that was sort of crossing my mind. But he was brilliant. I thought that the flow was a lot better, and I'm just hoping that it will improve. I mean, obviously we've got Man United when we come back, but then they played terribly yesterday. So let's hope that that's given them, a bit of a confidence knock, and we can come in and carry on.
Yeah, hope so. I mean, we'll come to those games a little bit later. Bizarre game of football yesterday. Darren Baldwin Funerals, big shout out to you. Thanks for sponsoring the show this month, and a big shout out to qtechshop.co.uk for doing the same. Kendall, your view on the game at the weekend? It was a great win. Just great to see Newcastle getting the 3 points, and it was a comprehensive win, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely convincing. It was a lot better than obviously we've seen. But Burnley always do this. They always have a dodgy, shaky start to the season, and they end up finding their way and getting better. So I'm glad, we've had a chance to have them early on in the season, because later on it probably maybe would have been a different story. But it was nice to see Joelinton come back into himself. I mean, I know at the end of the day, he's not a world beater yet, but he's going somewhere to justify his price tag at the moment, and that's all we ask for. All we ask for that is that he's involved, that he tries, that he gets in the game, which is what he's doing lately, and that's fab. Hopefully he's found, he's calling in that position, more wide rather than number 9 up front. Wilson again was fantastic. People are going to say that I've got ulterior motives for saying that, but no, genuinely he's improved us so much, and he's one of the better strikers that we've seen in a long time for us. So it was nice to see him back on form again. Hendrick looked a little bit playing wider, he looked slightly wasted. I mean, I've seen a couple of people saying he had a poor game. I don't think he had a poor game by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he didn't look as confident as he does centrally. So what they're going to do there, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I think I mean, as well, an unsung hero for me was Kraft. I think he had a really, really decent game on Saturday, and it was nice to see, because I know, me included, I've been quite critical of him in the past, and I don't like him necessarily in that position over Mankey or anything like that. But yeah, it's nice to see him have a really good game, and Darlow again pulled off some great saves. So it was good all round for us for once on Saturday. So let's just hope the international break doesn't ruin it, and we keep on and training goes well, and we can keep Man United down there and do maybe get a result against them. But I've said that now, so we probably
Samantha, your view on the game at the weekend?
Yeah, I think it was a good result. We had a good plan. Burnley's defence was shocking. We pressured them. We had a real plan to split the centre-backs. We wanted to exploit the space between Bardsley and the centre-back. Like, he really knew what he wanted the team to do. And I think, you know, I put it out on Twitter just before St Maximum scored the first goal. He needed to swap with Joelinton, because the way that Wilson was bullying them and pulling them off to the side, there was real room for St Maximum. And the second goal was, you know, the second goal that Wilson scored was like reminiscent of the Entertainers. I just thought it was one of the best goals that we've scored in a while. You know, St Maximum getting down the right, putting that ball into the back post, and Wilson attacking it. We haven't had that in so long. It worries you that you kind of are relying on those players, but I thought it was really good. Hendricks is kind of wasted on the right. It's not his natural position, and I think if he's going to be bringing Fraser in or Almiron on, that's where we're going to have an issue with Shelby. I think we're being quite protective on that side, especially with Kraft and Manquillo. But as long as all we wanted Bruce to do was play on the front foot, attack a little bit, push the team forward, and make sure that, you know, we weren't constantly trying to play from too deep, and he did it. The proof in the pudding will be, is he going to try something expansive against Man United? Because we all watched it yesterday. Absolute shambles. Even Liverpool, when Trent Alexander was targeted, really struggled. So if you go in with the right plan, you can get a result. I just want him to be positive, and I think I had more of an idea of what he was trying to do on Saturday compared to the rest of the games this season.
Yeah, it's a strange one, really. You know, the formation in particular. Just picking you up on that point, Samantha, about Hendrick. He's you know, coming for a little bit of criticism on social media, but the guy's not getting played in his natural position, and it's because ultimately Bruce, I don't think he's brave enough to make the decision. He's trying to be everybody's mate. I think we're starting to get the understanding of Steve Bruce. He's a good man manager. You know, he puts his arm around people, but we saw in the penalty shootout in midweek that he's not a motivator. He's not somebody who's getting involved. Steve Agnew was left to sort the penalty takers out. So I get the feeling that he's trying to keep everybody happy, and that doesn't work if you're playing players out of position. And you're right, Hendrick's not getting the opportunity, is he, really, to show what he can do?
No, he's not. And, you know, if we're going to play 4-4-2 or whatever variation that is with the players swapping, Hendrick's not going to stay on the right. You know, we've got Fraser, we've got Almiron. If he wants to play wing play, then he can't play Hendricks there, which means he's got a decision to make. And that decision for me is Shelby, because he is not protective enough. And you don't need his long balls to play wing play, because you want your wingers to pick the ball up and run. So, you know, that the proof in the pudding is going to be when Almiron and Fraser really start knocking on the door and saying, when am I going to play, unless he changes formation. Hendrick can't stay on the right. He didn't want to play on the right when he signed. And as I said, it's a good protective option while we kind of get a little bit closer. But that can't be the way that it stays.
Yeah, Jack McGrubbin agrees. Hendrick out wide over Miggy baffles me. He says, Terry, you must have read me mind, mate, because I was going to start talking about Joelinton. So want to give Joelinton the benefit of the doubt, but enough is enough. His first touch for pro is shocking. Drop him now. Terry, I'm going to book the trend here, and as you know, I've been set on giving Joelinton 10 games to prove himself, and I've got to be honest. Somebody mentioned a comment a little bit earlier. He is playing better. For me, and the problem is he was probably playing at 1 out of 10 last year, not 2 out of 10, 1 out of 10. Now he seems to have, upped his game. He's playing around about 6 out of 10. Sav, for me, I've been pleased. At least he's putting himself about. He's picked up a couple of bookings because he's actually trying to win the ball back. He's laying the ball off. He's just doing the simple stuff, which he wasn't doing any of that last season. I don't know what you think, but is there signs of life in Joelinton now?
I've been really critical of him in the past, and to be fair, I stopped when I saw the bullying he was getting over on social media, because I thought enough was enough with it. Because why would you want to turn up and put in a shift when you know that all the fans despise you? I felt for him when he missed that penalty last week. I mean, imagine the nerves going second and then missing, and then everyone else put it away. You can only imagine how that felt, knowing the sort of bad press that he's had surrounding his performance, with the 40 million price tag. I actually think on the pitch he has improved. And he's, out wide, he's put in some good runs. I thought he's been quite solid. He's not been the player that we saw last season, that was sort of, just struggling, a liability to have on the pitch. For me, he has improved. And, I hope that it's a stepping stone that he will keep improving. There's obviously some confidence has got into him. I think it's the change of position, to be fair. But, I don't think he's been that. I think he's, been quite good this season for what he could be, in comparison to last season.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Sav. I think there's definitely been a change of attitude as well, But, Bruce has put his arm around him. He's given him a chance. He's continued to play him. And, he's had a year here where he's probably learned, he's learned something. And, maybe it's a change of position. Kendall, I mean, is it more of his natural role? He was probably under too much pressure. He had to score goals last season. But, now that he's got an intelligent footballer alongside him who can score goals, it's probably maybe he's helping him making him look a little bit better.
Yeah, the problem is with Joelinton. So obviously when we signed him, the price tag came with 1 million more expectations than usual. We signed him, stupidly, people at the helm who were in charge of signed him for a role that he was not meant for, because we didn't have a consistently fit striker at the time. Obviously we only had like Carroll and Gale at the time, so they signed him for a role that he wasn't already made for, because at Hoffenheim he was a wide player, sort of rolling into a false number 10 sort of role-ish, and then so that just already set him off with massive loss of confidence, because he was in a role that he wasn't used to. The pressure was on him with the number 9 shirt. We didn't really have anyone at the time, because we didn't have obviously St. Maximin, etc., when we signed him originally, to give him a decent ball forward apart from Shelby, and Shelby wasn't necessarily consistently starting, so it was a struggle from the off. So now, because that pressure's been lifted, he knows he's got decent players around him. He knows he's not consistently there to solely score goals. He's not the striker. The pressure's been lifted, and you can see it, absolutely see it straight away. I do completely agree though. Obviously last year we expected him to be here with the price tag, and he was here, and that meant that anything he did better than last season was going to be an improvement. But at the end of the day, an improvement's an improvement. If he can carry on and the confidence can be instilled a bit further, and he knows that where his position's going to be, I think then we can't really complain, and it can go a little bit to improving himself. But I don't think that at all that he's at the top level yet. I really don't.
Samantha, Joelinton is obviously not Malcolm McDonald's favourite player in a black and white shirt. I did try last week to try and get some kind of positive comment out of Malcolm, but unfortunately it fell on deaf ears. Have you changed your opinion of him? Is there sign of a player in there, do you think, now?
Yeah, he's working harder. He put himself about. He looks more confident. He doesn't look like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, which is maybe a bit different to confidence. I haven't changed my tune in terms of whether he should be starting games. And I think, he is working hard. I actually saw a comment that somebody said Bruce likes to pick Carroll and Joelinton to defend set pieces. And I absolutely agree with that. And that's really worrying, that you would want a centre forward or one of your attacking players on the pitch to defend set pieces. That aside, he is doing a role in the team at the minute, which is helping us to find our balance while Bruce kind of figures things out. My issue is if we get another 10 to 15 games in and he's not contributing assists or goals, then he doesn't deserve to be in the team. Because if he is, for example, keeping Almiron out, then I think that's a travesty. So, I mean, we'll use this season to say he's finding his feet, he's working harder, he's performing better than he was. Does that make him a good player? No. And is it, offering enough to the team in terms of taking the pressure off other players that need to provide assists and goals? That's where we need to be in 10 to 15 games time. It's not about his price tag. It's about your role in the team. And he's not a box-to-box midfielder. He is not a centre-back. So his defensive qualities are admirable, but that's not his role in the team. So, that's where I am with Joelinton. I'm not hating him. I really worry, coming back to the point on our transfer business, what happens if Wilson gets injured? He's going to have to play up front. That could absolutely ruin his confidence because Carl, bless him, with the best will in the world, he has legs made of rock. He just can't get up and down the pitch enough. So are we going to be in a position of Bruce's on making where we need to give Wilson a rest, or he does pick up a knock and we have to put Joelinton up front and we go down the same path again? So I think that's a consideration too. I hope he does well. It has been nice to see him play with a wee bit more freedom, but that needs to then move to the next level where he is offering more threat and goals and assists.
Great stuff, girls. Terry Atkinson says, Steve, when you're starting from such a low base, then he can't do anything other than go up. Fair point. Andy says, Joe is still a young kid. He is still developing as a player, and we're putting too much expectation on him and want him to be a Ronaldo. We should let him learn and develop. Frankie says, I really hope Joelinton does come good. I hope, given some time, we eventually see a marked improvement. Either way, he definitely doesn't deserve all the BS he has to deal with on social media. Funko says, the thing is, I think Joelinton's a bit more like Heskey this season. Not many goals in him, but maybe take defenders away. So this opens up Wilson's game, but it's still early days yet. Ben Shields says Joelinton should play anchor. He's good at holding the ball up. Katie, good evening, Katie. She says Carroll would probably score a goal if he didn't spend 80 minutes of the match playing midfield and being the last one in the box. Talking about Andy Carroll obviously potentially playing instead of Joelinton. I just says we need Wilson to start every game. And plenty of comments coming in about Nick DeMarco's tweet, so we'll look at that next. And this was the picture that Nick DeMarco put on Twitter today. Basically, if you see in the background there, as well as his probably very expensive wine rack, he has 2 bottles of brown ale and some bread. Now, he's been baking that bread, which is what the tweet is about. A lot of people have been reading into that this could have something to do with the takeover. Is that significant with breaking bread, which is what mafia dons do when they're sitting down at a table with each other? I don't know. Sav, what do you make of that picture that Nick DeMarco put out? Is it a bit of mischief? Is it something to do with the takeover? Or is it something we should be completely ignoring?
No, I think with this takeover, there's been so many sort of conspiracy theories behind everything, with the Rick Astley song, that came on, and then there was this tonight, and I only saw it actually just before I came on here. But yeah, you can read into that like really well, but then is that just a bit of paranoia that we all do, and then we all get really excited and we get let down? It does seem a bit suspicious to me. I would hope, fingers crossed, but I'm not sure whether you can look too much into it or get too excited. I try not to, because there's just been so many disappointments behind this takeover that I've just sort of kind of got over that now. And I'm not going to be led down the path of, an early celebration anymore.
It's Master's Last Supper, says Funko. Anything in it, Kendall?
I really don't know. I mean, it just seems odd that you would tweet something like that if there was nothing in it. That's just my personal opinion, but obviously, as we all know, we don't tend to even delve into takeover discussions now because it's literally just makes you go crazy. I've just seen someone in the chat there said that like it could be like making dough, like money. Like I just don't know what the deal is. I really don't. But as I say, it just seems odd that he's done something like that, knowing like the whole high profile case of our club and the takeover and things like that. So I don't know why he's done anything like that to feed into that sort of thing, knowing what the fans are like. So maybe there is something behind it, maybe there isn't, maybe he just wants to make sure that the fans are still aware that things are going on and, you know, keeping up to date with stuff. But who knows? I don't think we'll ever know until, you know, there's an actual official announcement on what's going on. So
apparently the bread is 80-10-10. That's what everyone keeps saying. You know, I mean, I don't know really what. Yeah, is it some kind of sign? Is it some kind of signal?
So many symbols in that picture, like you could link it. I just don't honestly know what you could even say about it.
Yeah, I mean, there is bread and wine and beer. Yeah, there's loads of comments coming in. Bottle of champagne called Black and White. The other bottles are Guinness, whose advertising line is everything comes to those who wait. There's a lot of cryptic info in there, if it's a coincidence. Samantha, are you reading anything into this?
God, I don't need to with all the detectives that we have on Twitter. I mean, I look at that picture and I think that looks great for Saturday night. I want some of that. There's obviously a meaning behind it. I haven't read anything into it. Fair play to him for putting it all together and giving Twitter a focus on deadline day that isn't anything to do with not buying players. Yeah, I don't know. I just think the bread looks great. So that's pretty much my opinion on it.
Yeah, Sean just says he's surprised there's not a on the picture somewhere. Of course, as you know, I won't say it. I won't say that swear word. Yeah, I mean, is the takeover still bubbling away? Yeah, it is in some shape or form. And as you know, I don't think we'll really know what's going on. I just hope it continues to bubble away in the background and we don't hear anything about it, because, you know, if we do, we're going to be back on that merry-go-round, which is an absolute nightmare to be on, you know. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see whether Nick puts any more cryptic tweets out, or whether anyone connected with it does. Yesterday, I want to talk about yesterday, not Newcastle United related, Sav, but what a Super Sunday that was. It's not very often you get a Super Sunday where, you know, you have so many goals flying in, and not just flying in, but flying at the net of the champions and a team which you would expect to be there or thereabouts. Liverpool and Man United conceding 7 and 6 respectively. What did you make of yesterday's games?
They were shocking, weren't they? I mean, I weren't even going to watch them, and I fell asleep at the end of the Arsenal match. I got really bored and I fell asleep, and then I woke up at half time to the Man United match. So the Sky Sports people just absolutely raging about it. You know, you could just see how upset they all were. You know, behind the fact that they'd conceded so many goals, and then it just got worse and worse. And then after that, I was like, you know what, that was quite good. I think I'm going to watch the Villa one as well. And, you know, that didn't disappoint either. It was lovely to see those sorts of, you know, levels of teams, you know, the big six being, you know, absolutely thrashed, because you don't really see that often. Their defence was awful. You know, they looked like, you know, us on a bad day when we're stood there all defeated and just can't be bothered anymore. And, you know, that was quite refreshing to see. I don't know what, you know, 2020 matches or something, but it was an odd day. It was a really, you know, I didn't expect it. I would have loved to have put a bet on that, though, because, you know, I'd be quids in right now.
Oh, yes. I mean, somebody somewhere will have had that bet on, probably a Villa fan, but unbelievable if they did. Good luck to them. Yeah, Kendall, strange weekend, really, for football results, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a mad game. Yesterday, Man United looked horrendous, like absolute really bad, like the worst that I've seen them in a long time. Luke Shaw's challenge, I don't know how he stayed on the pitch. Quite honestly, I am so baffled as to why he even did that. Because yeah, it wasn't like it was 2-1 down. They were literally already losing. I don't know if it was even like 6-1 at that point, but I don't know why he even did that challenge on Lucas Moura. Like I watched the video and I'm just like, why? Even Ollie in the background's like, why did you just do that? So yeah, it was nice. It's awful to say because it'll probably be us at one point, but like hopefully not. But it's nice to see, you know, the typical winners, the champions, and being shown that it's not, you know, it's not your divine right to continue the next season after being champions to be as good as you were. You have to still, you know, work at it. And Villa look really, really good, unfortunately, like for us. And very sadly, they're looking really strong this year, and they've made some decent signings as well. So I can only see them capitalising on that and going forward. But it is nice to see Man United being at, respectively 14th. Or I think they're 16th and Man City's 14th, or vice versa in the league. So yeah, if the season ends like that, it'll be lovely. 2020 without us.
Samantha, did you enjoy yesterday's football? There was some goals yesterday. Villa, I mean, I'm not a fan of Villa. Not many Newcastle fans will be, but just to see them absolutely muller Liverpool was just one of the strangest things I've seen in a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, two highlights I had from the United and Liverpool game yesterday were in the United game. At the end of it, Mourinho patted Solskjaer in the head, and I just thought that was hilarious. And then in the Villa game, Jurgen Klopp was just laughing. He was laughing when the 5th or 6th goal went in. And, it was like the apocalypse day for football. For me, that's what happens when you have a go. I mean, it can go one of two ways. You can either get absolutely hammered, or you can actually get a good result for yourself. And football at the minute, it's not normal football. People are saying it's back in, it's like training matches. We're never going to see anything like this again in our lifetime, the way that, the results are. People are joking that it's like when you check CFAX in, I don't know, the 70s or 80s to see these massive scores. So, yeah, I think it was just one of those occasions where I was so happy to be able to sit down and watch football. Villa do look good. Spurs looked like world beaters because United were so bad. And, I think all of us have a soft spot for United being absolutely horrendous. And their fans crying on Twitter because, their owners are awful, even though when Mourinho was manager, he spent 300 million. Yeah, it's really sad. It breaks my heart. But great day. Again, I would just like to see us have a go a little bit more. It's just that season where you just don't know what's going to happen. So just go for it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, bit of incoming news. DeAndre Yedlin's going to reevaluate his future in January with his deal expiring next summer, so he won't be leaving tonight, says Aaron Stokes on Twitter. One person who will remain on the wage bill for the next few months. Yano asked a question earlier about Lascelles, Sav. Are we better without him?
Do you know, I think in a way we are. I've never massively got the hype of Lascelles. I've never kind of got it. And I don't think, I think maybe it's because he's captain. I don't, I've said this before, I don't see him as a leader. I think, I know that it's a bit biased. We've got Shah. I'm not saying I'd have him captain at all. But, you've got Shah there as well. Well, I probably would, but no, I wouldn't. but we've got players I do think are better than him. But I don't, I have often thought this, is it the stress of the fact that he's captain and I don't see him sort of massively egging anyone on anymore or sort of running around, pepping everyone up, shouting out instruction. I don't feel that we miss him at times. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just because I don't massively get him. I've just never been massively hyped on him.
Okay, life goals. We'll come to that in a minute, mate. I'm certainly not doing it. Samantha, you're getting told off for calling you're getting told off for calling Manchester United. So you better apologise to your watching audience.
Sorry, DV. Sorry, folks.
Kendall. I mean, Lascelles, would you have him in your team?
So for me, it was like my battery's gone. Sorry. For me, it's like my fourth choice personally. Like after Fernandez, Clark, and Lejeune, and then obviously we've let Lejeune go, so he's just stepped himself up a little bit. I mean, I would even put Shah there instead in front of him now. I just don't think the end half of last season and coming at this season, he's half the player or the leader that he was. For me, we're a lot more loose at the back when he plays. So I feel like we don't play out from the back as much, and there's a lot of more of a danger area there when he is involved because he cannot play out from the back, which leads him to, you know, passing backwards or passing along the back line, and then that's when the team intercepts. For me, he's just not at all the leader that he used to be, and I really, unfortunately, do think that it's time to maybe look at moving the captaincy on. I don't know at what point you can do that in this season. You don't want to humiliate anyone. He's been captain for a couple of years now, but I just don't think that he offers that leadership that everyone was so set on him doing the past couple of seasons. I don't know what's wrong with him at all. He just doesn't look remotely like the Lascelles that most of the fans grew to love. Personally, for me, I never thought he was, you know, ready to be called up for England or anything like that. I know a lot of people will massively disagree with me on that, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, I really feel like, for me, the strongest centre-back pairing for me is Fernandez and Clark. And that's who, personally, I would play for.
Okay. Lascelles, would he be in your starting 11, Samantha?
Yeah, I think I've spoken about Lascelles on numerous shows. You know, he was my choice for captain, but exactly what Kendall said, for about the last year and a half, he just doesn't seem right. And I don't think, even in the games that him and Fernandez have played together this season, they don't look good. Whereas you put Schär beside Fernandez on Saturday, they looked really good together. Now, they had a really difficult spell just after half time, but you know, Lascelles is the problem for me. It's his mobility, and I feel like, I would never have said this before, but I feel like if there was a bidder, I would let him go. Now, that's not me saying I think the rest of our defence is good. I think we need upgrades. I think Clark is okay. I think he's reliable. I think Schär is good. I think Fernandez is the leader at the back. I do think we could upgrade, you know, a couple of those, but I wouldn't bring Lascelles back into the team. You know, I think Rich in the comments made a comment about Lascelles being good when he had two ball-playing centre-backs beside him. Absolutely, because then he was kind of the controller. In a flat back four, I don't think it's working. And just on the point about you picking on Lascelles, Steve, I don't think that you do. I think we've all just noticed a difference in him. He's not commanding. He's not vocal. Not that I think anyone is, and if taking the captaincy off him meant it went to Shelby, I would be absolutely against that as well, because he's not consistent enough. But I don't think Lascelles should be back in the team, and I don't know what that means for him in terms of his future with us. Maybe it's time that he moved on, and that's painful to think, but he did some great things for the team, for the club in difficult situations, but I just don't think it works anymore.
Okay, good points. Gordon Hudspeth, yes, I did see your point there, mate. Don't forget, I did say at the start of the season, everyone starts with a clean slate, mate. And I'm just asking a question that somebody's asked. So that wasn't me having a pop at Lascelles. From my perspective, you've seen the comments. A lot of people, you know, would think that he could do with a rest, and he's had one, and we've just won 3-1. It's up to Steve Bruce the next game to decide what he wants to do. Live Goal says, are any of you doing Fantasy Premier League? Impossible to know which players to pick other than Son, Kane, James and Salah. I went against my judgment and picked a Newcastle player. ASM. Do any of you girls do this? I've never, ever done anything like this. And that usually because I'm a bad loser on things, and it's not something I really want to, I want to spend my time doing. But do you do one, Sav?
Yeah, I do, and I'm terrible at it. Like, I had Rashford in my team yesterday, and I took him off the bench for that, and it's, oh god, I'd be awful. I mean, I had ASM in my team this weekend, who bought me the most points, which shows, my team, I'm just terrible at it. I always look at what number I'm on, 4 million something and something else. It's it's shameful. I just do it for fun. I do like it, but I'm not very good at it.
Okay, Kendall, are you into this fantasy football malarkey?
It gives me such irrational rage. It's like it's real. I can't deal with it. It gets on my nerves every week. Like, it literally causes me so much anger. I just can't, even worse than like actual football. Because, for example, like Saturday, like me and Sam were just talking about this morning, how much rage it gives us. Because Saturday, FPL said that Alan St. Maximin wasn't fit. So this was, you have to pick your team by 11 o'clock on the day the matches start. They said he wasn't fit, and there was 75% chance of him playing. So I thought, well, I'm just going to take him out because obviously he's clearly not fit. And if he is fit, he's going to be on the bench because he's not just going to. Steve Bruce is surely not going to make the mistake of putting him back in again when he's injured. Oh, look at that. What did he do? He was playing, starting, got 12 points, and I was fuming. I was looking like, and he was still orange, like saying that he was injured on the FPL.
Yeah.
And I just was so fuming. Like, literally, why? I changed my whole team for that particular reason. And then people like who I thought were nailed on, like Trent Alexander-Arnold, got -1. Well, so what's the point? I've transferred Trent Alexander-Arnold out yesterday. I've done it. I'm sick of it. He got my nerves. I got rid of him yesterday and I've put Mings in there instead. So if Aston Villa start going downhill and Trent Alexander-Arnold start, I'm deleting it. I'm never going back.
See, I'd end up. This is why I don't play. I'd end up smashing my phone.
Honestly,
I would.
You get so angry and like
I'd be like this.
I'm so sick. You do. You get so mad. I've already played my wild card, which means I've already done made all my transfers that I can make before you get another one in January. So I'm stuffed if I start getting injuries. And I've already played my free hit, which is like another where 1 week of transfers you can make as many transfers as you want. So I'm stuffed. If my team starts getting injured, I'm just going to delete and I'm never doing it the rest of my life. I'm so angry.
Well, I think we'll probably do a full show on this, Kendall's team and what's going wrong. Like Samantha, she's nearly had a breakdown there, and you're obviously understanding what she's going through.
Yeah, I mean, we had the same, as Kendall said, the discussion about the rage it causes you. I was in the same position with Alan St. Maximin. It still shows that he's injured and he has 12 points this week. Why? I also took Son out because Son was injured. And like my brother's a Spurs fan and I saw him on the pitch and I texted him. I was like, he's supposed to be injured. We talked about it at the weekend. And he was like, yeah, he's not injured anymore. It's like, well, I have 2 eyes. I mean, I can see that. So yeah, I get the same frustration. I haven't used my wild card yet, but I will transfer people. And I think I've changed 8 players so far. And I start thinking that I am a world beater, that this is my year, that my team's going to be fantastic. And then I get an average of about 36 points a week. And I see people like, Twitter told me yesterday someone triple captained Ollie Watkins. Who does that against Liverpool? I mean, so I put him in my team. It's not going to happen again, but like people that play the game are able to do things like that. And Kendall, gets -1 point.
It's a classic, that. Like, honestly, I'm so glad I don't do it. I just could do it's a stress I could do without. I've got no hair to start with. I don't know what else would start falling out. Like, Fungo Freddy says, stay off the fantasy footy, Steve. If you break your phone, who's Stavely going to break the takeover news to? Gary Goodson says, great show again, lasses. Love hearing your thoughts on the tune. I'm sure the girls are very pleased to get a message like that. Life goals. I had Salah as a triple captain first week, and that's kept me going. So all of this is Chinese to me. Yeah, I really don't understand any of it. John says, bloody hell, I'm glad I don't do it, causing more problems than the real game.
Yeah,
it really does. It's because you have control over it, whereas like you don't have control over them like your team playing, but you have control over your fantasy team. So it just gets like worse because then you feel like, oh, why did I do that?
Doug Hall says, I've got to get a burner phone from me true crime contacts for Katie next week. I hope you and Katie will wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We'll get you a burner phone from somebody. Rian Brannigan says, the quality of our set pieces has dropped. Also, Lascelles was threatening corners when we were well drilled. Just going back to the point about Lascelles. This is a question that keeps getting asked on Twitter a lot, Sav. How is Shaw been keeping this week?
He's doing well back down in the basement. I missed him when he'd gone back to training and stuff. But, it's sad that he's injured again, but he's happy, he's settled, he's not been trying to break out too much, he's fine.
and he's out taking the dog for a walk, so
well.
Tom, at least he makes the beds have. Tom Dixon says, do any of yours do the Super 6? I'm doing it, and it's quite interesting trying to pick the right results. Super 6, now that's the Sky one, isn't it?
Mm.
Does anybody do that?
You have to pick the 6 results.
Right.
No.
I suppose that's a bit easier. No.
No.
It's really
Still is-
not, because you have to pick the results and it has to be exactly, and then even if you get one wrong, it's just you're knackered. Like unless I think like everyone else who's played, if no one gets 6, I think it goes down to like 5, but I'm not sure. I couldn't. That's another stress I just couldn't deal with on top of fantasy league.
Oh, Darren's winding you up here. Here's me sitting top of the fantasy football league with Maxi, Wilson, Kane, Salah, and Vardy. Even I understand that. In the last 10 minutes, international football. Sav, are you interested? Does it float your boat? Is it something you look forward to when the international break's on?
I do look forward to it to an extent. I mean, you know, it depends what it is. I do sometimes. Well, I will watch it, but you know, it does. There's no Newcastle players in it, so to that extent, it doesn't massively interest me. But I always do watch it. It's the fact that Pickford's in goal just gives me complete rage, and I think that just annoys me for the whole game. But I will watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest. I'm not a fan of international football. I haven't really enjoyed it since the 1990 and 1996 campaigns, when obviously England did well. I even found the last World Cup where we got to the semi-finals. I mean, I was working a lot of it, doing talk-ins, but I'm not really a big fan of it anymore. England's driven us away, and I just think, you know, anybody seems to be able to get a cap, and I don't even think the players take it seriously anymore. I think you've seen today, obviously there's going to be more recriminations from, you know, another birthday party, you know, players who got selected for the squad going out. Gareth Southgate's got an issue now because he's already punished, you know, a couple of players. Now he's going to have to look at this next, you know, set of players who've all been out during COVID, mixing together. It just seems anyone and everyone can get an England cap. Are you interested in it, Kendall? Is it something which, you know, international break? Do you sit and watch the England games, or, you know, are you just strictly a club girl?
Well, no, I do watch them, and I watch quite a lot of internationals because I like seeing, you know, maybe it's like the players that you don't normally watch. So obviously, as pretty much everyone who knows me now knows that I follow Atletico Madrid as well. So I like watching, you know, the Spanish side, like, to see if there's any teams there. But I find England pretty boring to watch, to be quite honest with you now. As you say, I don't think it's taken as seriously anymore as it used to be, which goes to show with people breaking rules and stuff in the past, you know, the young players breaking rules in the past couple of months. I think if Gareth Southgate wants to bring that seriousness back and show how, like, important it is to be picked for your country, I think he needs to continue the punishments and not make one rule for one rule for another. Otherwise, it's just going to continue, and people aren't going to continue to take it seriously. But yeah, I mean, we've got Belgium, Denmark, and Wales coming up. So I think Wales, obviously against Wales, it's like an international derby if you want. So maybe that'll be quite interesting to watch. But yeah, England haven't been good or exciting to watch for about 7 years now. I want to say maybe it's even longer. So it's like watching paint dry. So it's on in the background, but I don't get excited anymore. The whole Kane squaring it a Sterling thing ruined my life. So yeah, I don't take it seriously anymore.
Yeah, Sterling, of course, just pulled out of the England squad. Samantha, international football, is that something you enjoy or not?
I enjoy watching Northern Ireland, but England, you know, you hit the nail on the head for me, Steve. Anyone can get a cap. And actually, someone wanted me to bring up a topic for tonight's show, and it was about Darlow for England. And I said, look, I don't think people are going to receive it very well because I don't support England, and I'm, you know, against it because he's played 4 games. And it comes back to the change in the mentality about what it is to play for your country and earning it, that there are people that think, and, you know, I'm not criticizing their opinion, but there is a thought process now that 4 games for a club now means that you could be an international keeper. And I find that staggering. Now, Jordan Pickford is an abomination. Shouldn't even be Everton's number 1. Dean Henderson isn't playing. I understand that. But for me, Karl Darlow is not our number 1 keeper, and he will not be number 1 keeper when Dubravka comes back. You know, there's a few more games to play between then and now, and he may keep up this good form, he may not. But then people calling for him, even pundits and stuff, after 4 games saying he should be considered for England. Based on what? I don't get it. And, you know, then that kind of resonates through a lot of the other players. You used to have to earn your stripes up through the England ranks, or be a really solid performer for a long time to break into the England squad. And it just doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And then they get a whole host of players that can't play together. And, you know, I thought Southgate would be different when he took over the team, and he showed a bit. The football recently has been absolutely dire, playing defensive midfielders together against lesser teams. So, yeah, my thoughts are, in the last 5 years, it's just moved away, especially in England, in being enjoyable. And they have a whole host of great players that another manager or coach can't get to play together. And then you look outside of football, when we're looking at the COVID breaches, that, as someone said, there's a lot of people getting paid a lot of money and they won't even look after themselves. You talk about the football party, that's the birthday party that's being talked about at the minute. You know, they made a choice. They did temperature checks for that party, but they still knew they were breaking the rules. So these are informed decisions that players are making, knowing the impact that it's going to have. And that's the problem.
Yeah, especially, but problem is when you're in that position and you're a high profile footballer, I'm afraid you're always going to get grassed up by somebody. Yeah. If not intentionally, it'll be by a mobile phone picture or something. And, you know, you shouldn't take the risk, really. And that's just the way it is when you're in the public eye. Barry Hogan says, excellent show, girls. I think the women's football, especially internationals, is much better to watch. The passion, the pride in the shirt is amazing. Do you watch it, Sav?
No, I don't. I think we spoke about this a few weeks ago. I don't watch it. I feel like I should. I do feel there's a lot of things going around, you know, especially sort of Twitter, where people mock it. And I find that, you know, quite unfortunate. But no, for me, I don't watch it. I mean, I try and sort of dip into some clips, but most of it is just mocking, which I feel is completely wrong. I feel that it should be more equal to men's football. I don't necessarily know if it should be mixed, but, you know, it would be nice to see it. It just doesn't get the coverage that men's football gets. And, you know, one day maybe we'll be living, you know, in a different sort of, you know, society where it will lift. But for now, I just don't see it happening.
Okay, Kendall, big fan of the women's game, or is something you don't really watch?
I don't watch club women's football. I do watch international women's football when England are playing. So I'm not like a huge investor in women's football. But that's just because obviously it's not, as Sav says, it's not as promoted as men's football. But I do watch the internationals, and I do like watching the internationals. I think that unfortunately women's football is a world away from men's football. Just in terms of, I mean, don't get us wrong, there are several women footballers who are absolutely phenomenal, but I just think the all-round sort of game is just miles away from the men's. Luckily, I think, you know, the FA made sure that the women's football was going to be, you know, on the same pay bracket as men's football. And in a lot of countries have followed, obviously, suit. I don't know if it was either Brazil or like the USA who initially started that off. But that's just a step towards getting women's football, you know, more towards the men's game. But I think it'll be a long time before it is, you know, seen as equal. But I do watch internationals and I do enjoy them.
Okay, Samantha?
Yeah, I watch bits and pieces. I wouldn't be a massive follower, but the one thing I will say for the Women's League is the football is vastly improved on what it was a couple of years ago. There's better coverage as well. You can't compare the men's and women's game. You just can't. You can't compare apples and oranges. What you can see is there's a little bit more visibility. There are more former women's players as pundits. You know, there was a whole, you know, noise around, I think it's Alex Morgan, USA International, that come over and joined Spurs. Massive deal. It got mentioned on Sky Sports News earlier by Ginola, I think. So, I mean, they're trying, but people can mock. Go ahead. I mean, that's a sign of you as a person if you want to mock the women's game, when people are fighting to try and, you know, make it an enjoyable sport. There are people that like it. So people want to make a career out of it. it's getting more media coverage. You know, let it happen. It's not going to take away from the men's game. There is no, it's just never going to happen. But if people get enjoyment out of it and the media want to say a little bit more about it and some people become pundits, just let it happen. Better not to comment if you don't have anything good to say. But my point is, if you look at the quality and you don't compare it to men's, but you compare it to the quality of the women's game a couple of years ago, massively improved.
Yeah, good points. Well made by all three of you tonight. John B is asking us to finish off by giving marks out of 10 for Newcastle United's transfer window this summer. Sav, marks out of 10?
You know what? It could have been a lot better. I mean, luckily we've got a goal scorer. I felt that we could have done, with a couple of 3 more, in positions that needed in, another striker, central midfield, and another, centre back. But 7, maybe. We could have done more, and we peaked in the middle and then just completely dropped off. But 7.
Okay, 7 out of 10. Kendall, better or worse? Are you going?
Yeah, mine would probably be 6 or 7 as well, because as Sav says, we did before the season started looked like we signed fantastic. I mean, it's been a better window than it has been in a long time with Mike Ashley actually spending a bit of money. So yeah, that's great, but we still haven't strengthened in the areas where we needed to, and unfortunately letting people like Lejeune go out on loan when injuries were scarce in the defence anyway was a bad decision. But here we are. Yeah, I think if I'm in between 6 and 7, it'll be 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, Samantha?
Yeah, it'd be a 5 or a 6. I mean, when we started the season, it had been good. When we identified there were still issues, we should have done more. We've left far too much with Callum Wilson. And as I said, we're putting Andy Carroll's only enough for the bench. And we're going to force Joelinton potentially to play up front when we've seen that he is so much better not playing there. And we're still in the cup as well. So I just, in terms of the forward positions and maybe centre back, we just should have done more.
Okay, well, I'm going for 6 out of 10, which means Gordon Hudspeth, we agree on something. See? Times are a-changing, mate. Times are a-changing. Big thanks, as always, to the girls. Big thanks as well to my mates at Darren Baldwin Funerals. Great bunch of lads down there. Local independent family business, 24-hour service. There's the number on the screen there. And acutechshop.co.uk, who have kindly organised some T-shirts. Hopefully I'll be able to get them to the girls at some point as well, but they're going to be able to sell them as well, so I'm going to get some prices through, and they are going to knock some T-shirts up, so if people want to buy them, I'll be able to sort that out. But I think we're going to get some knocked up for the girls as well. A little freebie for the girls for all the work that they've done. I know there's a few coming for a few of the lads as well, but we'll sort that out. You will be able to buy the T-shirts, so keep an eye out, and I'll be putting some information up on that in due course. And tomorrow I'm back at 6 o'clock with Liam Kennedy. We're going to do 6 till 7, and then we're going to do a quick show 7 till 8. We're going to be looking back at the managers that Mike Ashley has had at Newcastle United, and we're going to put a poll on Facebook, and you can vote for your worst managers at Newcastle United under Mike Ashley, because a lot of that's been on Twitter over the last couple of weeks. People saying Bruce this and Bruce that. Well, put your money where your mouth is. Get involved tomorrow night. Let's have a debate on that with Liam Kennedy. He's going to go through the statistics of each manager, and we're going to see who people generally feel is the worst manager that Newcastle have had under Ashley. So that should be interesting. And a lot of people asking what we're doing at the weekend. Well, 12:30 on Saturday, we're going to try something a little bit different. We are still going to do Match Day Live. We're going to watch the Man United game together, the 5-0 win against Manchester United from 12:30 onwards. Anybody can join in the fun. Obviously, great game to watch, and gives us a chance to reminisce about the entertainers and sit and watch one of the classic games with them. So watch your game on YouTube, listen to us, and we can have a bit of banter about it and use the chat as well. But girls, as always, been an absolute pleasure, and stay safe. Look forward to having you back on again next Monday.
Bye.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care, girls. Bye.
talking to myself again.